How's it going, everybody? I'm back in Fallout 4. This time I'm going to be building a bar in Starlight Drive-In. So it's going to be by the houses. I know that I have two restaurant bar places on top of the huge build of the settlement, but I wanted to have one down here. That one up there is kind of like restaurants. This one's kind of just like a not really quite so big. It's a little smaller. It's mainly a bar though, or a hangout place. Um, Also, I had a bar down here in my original build. That's why I wanted to have a bar down here. And I plan on doing some more houses, and then also I plan on doing maybe a couple other shops. I'm not 100% sure, but I do plan on doing some defenses and stuff like that in this settlement. I have some pretty interesting ideas for like a defensive post here. But for now, we're gonna talk about this build. So I wanted to have a bar, but I wanted it to kind of be a little bit more interesting, I guess. And it's gonna be kind of not necessarily themed, I guess. It's gonna be a little bit more decorative, uh, and a little bit more interesting of a structure. So it does turn out a little bit boxy, but it doesn't look that bad. Also, I changed a couple things between the final build and the, or well, the build that I show you and the decorated tour, like the actual structure changes, and I'll point those out to you guys, even though you guys will probably notice it's a pretty big difference, or a pretty noticeable difference. Not really that big of a difference, but it's a pretty easy thing to like. If someone was like recreating something like this, it'd be pretty easy to do. Um, just like my previous builds in this settlement, it's gonna be pretty scrappy. I have a lot of these like angled buildings and stuff. I think that they look a little bit more interesting. It's easier to make interesting structures with Place Anywhere and being able to like put these gaps and stuff in it. But yeah, I used the scaffolding floor to fill the gap this time instead of using just the plywood pieces. And I used the half shack walls from Unlocked Settlement Objects to fill in the gap on this side. So this is going to be two stories, and so just like my one in the regular build, I guess, in the original build, it's going to have like an upstairs that kind of is open, and you can kind of see down into the bottom floor. And it'll kind of be like just a walkway around the upstairs with some tables and stuff. And I think it turns out really good the way I decorate it. I thought it was gonna look, I thought it was gonna be a little harder to decorate, and then it was actually pretty easy. I just used a lot of the smaller tables and stuff. But yeah, so I went ahead and the entrance for this, I didn't use a regular door, and I think it actually is a little bit more interesting. I just kind of use these half shack walls to kind of fill in the gap except for that last little bit, and then I use this small shack stair, like the smaller one. I use that to fill in the gap between the wall and the other wall to get up, and then I move that over a little bit more to kind of fill in that little gap because I didn't want too much space. And so um, I was trying to figure out how I was going to do the second floor, and I ended up going with metal prefab. I just used Place Anywhere to get it right up on the second floor, but like just low enough that there's not a gap between the floor and the uh, bottom wall, because if you use the roofs with the floor on top of it, there's usually a gap if you try to fill in that space. And so um, right here, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. And I end up going with these pieces because it's easier to fill in that gap. Because as you can see, it didn't really fit. So I just went ahead and went with one of these, that piece right there, the rounded off one, and then uh, place it on both sides, and then yeah, so it doesn't have any small gaps or anything like that. And then using the half shack wall, or the shack wall ends that are from unlock settlement objects that fit on those things are amazing. I actually am able to fill in the gap. And so right here, I'm actually just trying to get the walls in so I can place a staircase, and it's really just a build order issue. And so right here, I just place down all the walls I want in the staircase, and then I go to see if the floors that I picked fit, and I don't know if I actually change any of them. But as you can see, this is like right next to all the houses and stuff, and so like that was the one thing I was kind of worried about, was how close this second floor is to that balcony over there. But it kind of gets rid of some of the view of that balcony, but you can still see over the water purifiers and stuff, which I think that that's probably one of the more important things. And then also I just remembered that I deleted this piece earlier to get that wall on the top to fit in. And then right here I used the place anywhere tool to get this piece in up here at the correct angle. And this is kind of harder since I'm so far away from that side, but I kind of just went based off of like where that right corner was compared to the floor that I've already placed. And then to kind of switch up the textures, because the bottom floor is all wood, and from the wood tab I used the barn tab and the warehouse tab up here. And then I do not stick with what I've done already. I start changing things, even though in the end I don't stay with any of this. So, or well, I do stay with everything except for the walls that I just placed. So now I need to fill in that side. I'm trying to, one of my main issues is there's not enough walls that I like to use. I know that with, what is the mod? Skylines Workshop mod, the one that just came out recently. I downloaded that. There's some posters and stuff like that that you can use, but there's a lot of walls that I think could work sometimes, but I haven't found any instances that I can get it to work, because a lot of them I feel like are interior walls or just exterior walls, like siding and stuff like that, and it's like two-sided, and I don't think that they would really work in any of my builds specifically, but I really want to make use of them, because then it would kind of break up the texture of like all of my builds, because if you look at all my builds right now, it's a lot of wood. It's really brown, and it's brown and gray pretty much with blue spots. That's all my builds, because that's like a majority of the walls. So right here I'm looking to see if there's any place that I can use any of these walls, but I really am not seeing a whole lot of places. Maybe those wooden walls that have color, but I just don't like that they're so secure, I guess. I feel like that's for like pre-built structures, or like, I don't know, anything like that, because I don't feel like anybody's putting together walls like that in this post-apocalyptic place. It's just way too well put together, I guess. I don't know. You can use them if you'd like. It kind of breaks up textures and stuff, and I mean, I can't fault you for that. I just think that it's kind of weird looking. And then right here, I just kind of try to fill in this gap up here. This was kind of a pain because there's still a gap between the the roof on the top and that wall, but it's not like huge. I think I left it, the gap at least, and so I was just trying to fill in this little gap in the. All it is those half walls, which I did on the bottom too, so that's kind of an issue, I think, but it doesn't look too bad because I flip them around, so you can't really tell that it's the same walls. And then right here, I'm just boarding up all of this side, filling it in with railings and stuff. And so I wanted to have a gap, which I end up leaving a small hole because in my old build as well, I had a wire that went into the roof through a hole like that. And I always thought that that was cool, and I don't think that it looks bad, but for some reason that's a detail that I thought should stay. I don't know, my brain works in weird ways. I thought that that was a detail that I needed to keep in my build, and then filling in the gaps up here using the plywood pieces. It also kind of breaks up the textures up here because it's a lot of wood. And it is really dark in here. So the next thing that I did, apparently I went and looked around to see if there was anything else I could do. I was confused for a little bit, I guess. But right here, I was gonna put these pillars up, and it wouldn't actually clip, so I went down closer to the corner, kind of like I did for Nick Valentine's house. And I placed these a little bit lower into the ground so that I could snap this piece in. And it is kind of wonky, but I end up leaving it because I did not want to have to pull that one piece out and then use place anywhere, and it was just going to be a pain. And then I used the like supports from USO. These are kind of really annoying. They have to be at really specific angles, and then they also like clip, or not clip, but they like when they go to be placed, they go underneath whatever object you place. So the biggest issue that I have with them is that whenever I go to actually place them down, they have to go underneath something like a floor. And then on this side, all I'm doing is kind of, like I said, breaking up the textures, and then also I wanted to kind of make it look a little bit more defended. There are a couple changes between, or on this side too. It kind of sticks out whenever the video starts, but I felt like that was more of a decorative thing rather than like structural. So you'll see what I mean whenever I get there. And this is the last little bit of this. The tour will be here in a second, but all I did was use scaffolding, a rug, and I used a concrete wall, not scaffolding, to pillar glitch this junk wall into the bottom. It's the same texture as the warehouse tab. So here's the finished build. It is pretty misty out, foggy and stuff, but I think that it looks pretty good. I put the Minutemen statue up on the top. This is the thing I was saying is different on this side. It's more of a decorative thing. But I try to make a little bit of an interesting structure. The front is kind of sticking out because that's the thing that I added that I mentioned. But on this side, I just use this as like maybe a cooking area for the guy that runs the bar. The person I have running this bar is Ron Staples, which is the level 4 merchant. Now, I don't know if I had him when I recorded this tour, but this was like right after I had finished the build and assigned somebody to the actual bar. But if we go inside, you'll notice Ron Staples is there. But I put a lot of the older looking posters because I thought of this more like a Miniman bar. There's food on the tables, stuff like that. I actually did go back and delete some of the food items on the table and stuff to kind of help with frames because I'm starting to get issues with frame rate here. And yeah, I want to build a lot more. So I had to kind of deal with losing a little bit of the decorations. But at least in these videos, you guys can see them all decorated and stuff like that. But let me know what you guys think. And check out some of my other builds while you're here. Also, subscribe. And if you guys have any ideas or anything that you want me build more specifically, let me know. I'd love to hear you guys' ideas. And it starts to get a little bit dark at the end of this, but when I go outside, you'll see why I like that, because you can see it at the beginning of this tour when it's bright, and then when I leave, it's getting a little bit darker, so you can kind of see it at night. I thought it was pretty good timing. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.